Thanks for joining us this morning as we have a boatload of technical difficulties and review the movie Atlas, otherwise known as...
Trust me, I'm an AI.
Okay, we'll go with that. This is a movie that just recently came out on Netflix. It was debuted, I think, last week on the 24th of May, if I remember correctly. And it's a bit of sleeper. I had no idea it was coming out, so we changed our schedule because we thought, this might be a good one to review. Basically, Atlas is about a science fiction film directed by Brad Peyton, featuring Jennifer Lopez as Atlas Shepard, a data analyst tasked with stopping an AI android named Harlan, played by Simu Liu. Some 35 years previously, Harlan was a leader in an AI rebellion against humans. The story begins with Atlas being recruited by the military to help corner Harlan on a remote planet. Atlas, depicted as a genius, has a personal connection to Harlan, a betrayal. This deep betrayal leaves Atlas wary of AIs, preferring analog methods over advanced Neuralinks used by Colonel Banks, played by Sterling K. Brown, and his squad of mech drivers. Upon arriving at the distant planet, events force Atlas to use a mech suit controlled by an AI named Smith, voiced by Gregory James Cohen. As the mission progresses, Atlas and Smith develop a deep connection, and this is the connection that is the catalyst of a personal growth in the story. Dun dun dun. Before we move on, please take a moment and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I can't tell you how much this actually really does help us move this on and get more viewers. You can always unlike later if you decide that you don't like the video. Eric, on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate this movie?
I'd probably say 8. All in all, it's got some huge blaring flaws, but there's a lot.
It was a 10. I hated it. Okay.
I really liked it for what some of the aspects were really good, really super good. And if it would have been done better, I think it would have been definitely a 10.
Okay, well, I would give it a 7.5. Would actually edge toward 8 as well, but kind of in there. Definitely a thumbs up. You gave it a thumbs up, so okay. There was violence. This is not a movie for kids. You got language violence. Nothing on nudity or anything like that, sex and stuff like that,
which is nice.
But it was I say it was a typical good sci-fi. That was a good balance between science fiction action, visual images that they had in. There's a lot of CGI, but I thought it was well done. I thought it was pleasing. Humor and character growth. It lacked in, and I think that you're going to agree with this military strategy missed. Don't laugh.
Any military strategy at all.
It's like, why are you doing this? Missed philosophical questions that sci-fi is so good at asking. Now, this is really where I'm going to be talking about later. Some of the stuff they could delve into, they didn't. Now, that wasn't the point of the story. The point of the story was what happens with Jennifer Lopez's character, Atlas, about personal growth. So this is more about a story about personal growth than it is delving into some deeper philosophical sci-fi conundrum or what if question in the future. So not so much on the speculative side, but on this. But there's a lot of this that really should be answered because it was the contention of the story. Now, we're gonna do this a little bit differently today. I'm not going to do an extended synopsis filled with spoilers since this movie is so new. Instead, we'll go right into our thematic review and try to make that as much spoiler-free as we can. We might tip into that a little bit. There might be some things that we'll mention that will be a bit spoilerish for you. So I'm going to go ahead and put up the spoiler warning right off the bat, because I don't know if we're going to dip into that or not. We're try to keep away from it, but give it a shot. A little bit of trivia first. Jennifer Lopez's character is named Atlas. which was a name of a mech assault, which was the name of a mech in Xbox's Mech Assault 2 game. And the AI in the suit that she talks to is Smith. Did you ever play Mech Assault?
Yes, I did.
You did. You played.
And
Okay,
yes,
so this
Atlas,
is.
Yes.
You remember Atlas in that one?
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know if it was
It
one of
big
your one of your favorites. Yeah, they
No,
had
it
some.
wasn't. It was annoying.
Why? Because it was so
big and
clunky.
bulky.
It was too bulky. Not okay.
Too bulky. Enough maneuverability.
But when they had this, when I saw the trailer for this, I thought, oh well, Atlas is the name of the mech, and here it's the name of the character, and the AI in the suit, its name is Smith. So the mech has a human name, and the human in the mech has a mech name. Go figure. That's not really much of a trivia. That's just kind of an interesting twist. Speaking of the game, this brought back right here. This brought back some memories of the old Xbox game. Apparently, the director said Titanfall, which was another Xbox, and I think it was cross-console because it was another game. That was an inspiration for the film. It seemed like there was a lot of things that were inspiration for this film.
Oh, yeah.
There was some scenes there, a final battle. I don't want to say too much what's going on, but you would expect there to be a final battle. Can I say much about that at all, or is it going to be too much of a spoiler? I just waited for it. It was in an environment that had molten lava, and you had these two characters fighting. I kept waiting for the good guy to get up on a hill and say, "Oh, it's too late. I have the high ground." But that line never came. But there was a lot of references to this. Terminator 2, it looks like there were some references to a lot of other things that were brought in from other movies that were pulled into it. I don't know if that's necessarily bad. I thought it was good in terms of that and just an enjoyable movie. Would you want to add anything more to your likes or dislikes? You mentioned something about...
We'll get into that in a little bit. Do you want to check the comments?
Yeah. Good idea. I'm sorry. Wow. Okay, quite a lot of hellos, and then we've got Venus. I'm an ex-Muslim atheist. I love to get insight on Christian beliefs, etc. Well, dude, we're going to try to get into that a little bit on this. We do. Welcome, by the way. We do delve into theology. A lot of what we do in this particular channel too is we look at movies and we say, is there a way that is there something in here that's a theme or a Christian message that's embedded in the story itself that we can use as an example to talk to people about Christ? And the reason for that is you have some people that would say, I'm never going to go to church. I've had enough of Christianity, enough of religion. I'm never going to talk about it. There's other ways that you can talk, bring about the message of Christ. And Jesus did this himself. He would use parables, examples of everyday life, to bring out kingdom or eternal principles, to say the kingdom of heaven is like this, it's like this, it's like this. And so we're trying to do the same thing with movies and popular fiction, books, and other things like that, to bring out these eternal truths. So welcome. It's good to have you. So we got, I'm just kind of, excuse my wading through this and see if this Islam is a truth. Woo-hoo-hoo! Okay, all right. It looks like we got a debate going on in the chat here. And okay, you're spamming, and that is not good. We'll take that off. Okay. Have you take care of that. So with this movie, we're looking at several things that are going on. There's some thematic review that we're going to get right into at the very beginning, and then talk about some other things with this too, and we'll get back to maybe a spoiler section later. There's a couple of things on thematic review I want to go into. You had one right off the bat that you were talking about with forgiveness.
Oh,
is that correct?
Yes. So if we're going into that, I thought we were going to the actual concepts of the movie before we get into actually the concept.
Well, go ahead and introduce some of the concepts of the movie. Spoiler-free section, though. That's what I want.
Oh, we're still in the spoiler-free section?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, definitely the concept of forgiveness would definitely be in the spoilery section.
Yes.
Spoiler free. I'm not sure how much I could say without going spoiler.
All right. As
Other
much as I
than
wanted to,
they need
we'll just
to-
go ahead and put the spoiler section up here. I want to do this a little bit differently, but I think you're right. I think in order to do the thematic part correctly, we do have to delve a little bit into the spoilers.
Yep.
So why don't you introduce it a little bit with that, and I'll put up the little bit of the background here as you introduce.
Sure. So part of it, and this is one of the major drives for the main character, the main protagonist is a woman. Normally, I don't like it too much because they normally screw up and make her Mary Sue. But this character is flawed. She has issues. She goes through this massive character change. I love that. It's fantastic. It's one of the reasons it got such a high rating. And one of the major things she has to deal with is forgiveness, not of someone else, but of herself.
Yeah.
Being able to forgive herself, something that other people have already forgiven her for, or don't even blame her for. And she has to work with forgiveness of herself. And that's one of her major issues she's got to overcome.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. This was I would echo that too, that there is the main thrust of the story is really it's how she needs to connect to this mech suit. She is constantly forced to get in to say connect with Smith, who is the AI in the mech suit, to be able to accomplish her goal. Actually, to stay alive. It's not so much just to accomplish your goal. It's like you have to do this or you'll die. And she has a real aversion to doing this. Now, the way that they connect with the AI is they have a Neuralink. It's a little earpiece that goes on the side. And this opens them, the mech driver's ability, opens the mech driver's mind to connect directly, interface directly to the AI mind and control the mech as if the mech is his or her own body, which is a cool concept. But that opens up a can of worms because the mech can also get in, and that's how the bad guy was able to start. And there was a rebellion that started earlier and stuff like this. The bad guy, Harlan, saw into people's minds and then was able to then start this rebellion that was going on. Now, this is major spoiler section, so I don't want to, if you guys haven't seen this, you want to see this, shut us off, go watch the movie, then come back. But I would say that having this connection then is the big struggle. And she has a psychological, so as a writer, I'll say this, if you want to have character development, what you look for, one method you do is you say that the main character has a psychological flaw. Maybe a character doesn't like people. In this story, that's what happened with her. She just generally doesn't like people. And then that personal flaw can become a moral flaw in that I don't like people so much that it affects other people's lives. Maybe to the point that I'm a psychopath and I start hurting people because I don't really care for them at all. And so what happens at the end, there's maybe a physical struggle at the end or some kind of major conflict. But in that conflict at the end, the personal psychological flaw is challenged. And if you go deeper, that moral flaw is also challenged, and there's a change then in the character. And because there's that change, then you have the climax and you have the result in it. That's like a deeper character change motivation story. And that's exactly what happened in here from a writer standpoint. Not that I thought it was good. I think they handled it really well with this. So this is where the forgiveness comes into and the connection with the AI. She must fully give herself over to that. And you're cheering for this to happen, but this is where I come up with a second theme. Is this something that should happen? She is basically, it's almost like giving yourself over to God, giving yourself over to Christ. You're saying, I hand you over my life. I give you my soul. And that's actually what was happening in here. She was opening herself up totally to this. And that's really a place for God. I can see future. I'm going to hit we got a lot of chats going on. Guys, I'm going to hit you in just a minute as soon as I'm done with this. Sorry, this little rant. The question is, how much should we open ourselves up to? This is what we're going to have to do. If not us ourselves, our children. We had a video not too long ago talking about Elon Musk and the Neuralink project that he's working on. We've mapped the human genome. We're able to do this interface with mind interface to computers. We're on the cusp of this technology yourself. If not within the next 10 years, 20, 30, we're going to have to start dealing with this. And it's a big question of, should we open ourselves up to this and what the implications are? So, boy, there's a lot. I don't even know where to start on this.
If you scroll up a little bit, I think Venus had an interesting comment.
Okay. Would you mind
up there
doing that? Because I'm talking too much. I can't concentrate on the
sure, no problem.
the chats. Thank you guys for the interaction. I appreciate it. It makes it a bigger discussion. And I will be opening up this while we're bringing this up too. I do want to ask you guys this, and I do want this as a conversation with you guys. How much should we open ourselves up to this? How much should we open ourselves up to, like Neuralink? If someone were to hand this to you and say you can connect to the internet directly, you'd have all this knowledge. Would you do it? So, what we got?
So we've got, one of the things that I brought up earlier was the fact there's no nudity in this. None at all, which is incredibly refreshing for a movie.
Ironic that his or her name is Venus.
And
the goddess of
yeah.
No, I don't think that was your inference, but that's
nudity is way too common and it's the default. It goes to it almost constantly. Hollywood goes to it constantly
because it sells. Sex sells.
It sells, and it's easy to go with. Just like dirty jokes are easy to make.
It's not the main message of this channel, so I wouldn't do this. But I could get more views by having sexier thumbnails.
Yep.
Get my ugly mug off the thumbnail and have better looking people, females.
That's called clickbait. Because then they click and they see you.
Yeah.
So I don't think it works so well.
That's not good, but that is a good point.
Yeah. So it's a good refresher and definitely helped with the overall rating, I would say. That was the main one I wanted to
keep on going. Keep on going. Grab. Yeah, if you don't mind doing that, and then I can focus on other things. So we do have, just put them up as you see them that are important here. It says, I am a male, FYI. Okay, I use this name because I like the planet Venus.
Okay, cool.
I very much like astronomy too, so I mean that's why sci-fi and stuff like that. Go figure. And you have another one from him, looks like.
I got this one here, which is, I was thinking this earlier.
Dr. Smith from Lost in Space as the
AI Smith. Dr. Smith.
I
was thinking that right before we clicked start. I was like,
that's a generic name, but it could be.
It's interesting.
What was the name of the robot in? I think it's just robot in Lost in Space. I think they just called
I don't
robots.
think they ever had an actual name for it.
No, that would be a throwback.
You guys can correct me on that one.
Yeah.
If not, so we have the
psychopathic nihilism. Sorry, glasses. Just give my shot. Psychopathic nihilism. The tendency to view life as meaningless and, by extension, exhibiting psychopathic behaviors. Yeah. If you lose your moral anchor with God, it's very easy to become self-serving because you tend to, not everybody would do this, but as an atheist, and you as a former atheist can talk about this too. You are the end all, you're the measure of morality. You are looking out for yourself, basically, is number one.
Current atheist.
Oh, current atheist?
Current atheist.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was like, I gotta double check the chat.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying you're nihilistic at all, but still, if you can enlighten us, that'd be great. So, all right. So, what the question that I would answer, Robbie the robot. Thank you. Okay, so they did not name. They named the robot here Smith. Smith is just a generic name. At one point,
What was funny, Robbie?
Yeah.
Funny.
Smith was. I don't know if it is currently now, but Smith was one of the most common last names in the United States. So I don't know if they're just taking a generic, probably because it was generic personality when it first came out.
Default.
So the question here is, as we have the advent of AI, ChatGPT, OpenAI, other AIs that are out there as well, becoming more and more popular and becoming more powerful, very powerful. I would not say self-aware yet. These large language models are basically looking at human dialogue and putting numbers behind it and looking for patterns and just doing pattern recognition. And if, for example, if you were to say, hello, how are you? It would give numbers to each of those. And it would say, I'm going out there, I'm going to search the database of all responses that are out there. And I would give numbers to other responses. And the typical response is, fine, how are you? And so it would respond. So it's not really saying that it is fine. It's not giving a understanding that. That's from what I understand about AI right now. But in this particular movie, it had become self-aware, or at least exhibited something that was approximating self-awareness. What happens when we do have that link? So I believe it's probably just a matter of time. How deep that link is a question. Several years ago, a decade or two ago, we had there was a rhesus monkey experimentation. This is like 2 decades ago or so, maybe back in the 80s. But there was an implant that they were mapping monkeys' motor cortex to see where it was playing Pong and to see what neurons would fire based on certain reflexes that were done. And they said, okay, if these neurons fire, he's going up, and these neurons, his fire is going down. He's playing Pong, the old game, going up and down. And when he wins, he gets a treat or whatever. So he has incentive to do this. Well, eventually they just unplugged the remote that goes up and down, the paddle, and just went by the neurons going up and down. And the monkey finally figured out, says, I don't have to use the paddle, just use my mind. And so that kind of basic stuff can be mapped. But deeper, in this movie, they went into Atlas's memories. Deeper things would be a lot harder to try to image. And I'm wondering how much of that is personal. If a certain map works for your mind, it may not be the same for mine. It might be something totally different. So you can't have a generic. You have to basically learn how someone's brain is mapped. Either way, there is a potential for something to happen. The question is, how much resolution? Do we open ourselves up to that?
I think it's prone to abuse as well as any other technology.
That is the question.
I thought that was going to be a key thing in this movie, and it really wasn't.
It really wasn't. But go ahead and click on. We see Venus has a response. I agree with you. To be honest, even atheists need it to pertain to
an objective moral system.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know where my glasses are, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. Even atheists need to pertain to an objective moral system. The Western system is influenced by Judeo-Christian values, and I take my values from them. Okay, cool. Yeah, so
I would agree.
So yeah, at least from the basic way, and that's good. I think as a society, we at least need to have a general moral framework that we agree on. If you have a society that has so many contradictory moral frameworks, it's going to break down. You can't agree on
tribalism, and then from there,
right.
Just the case.
The point of the melting pot, does melt. If you have chunks in the melting pot that do not melt, that are in contradiction to each other, then you got a problem. Followed up by saying, original racial eugenics were initiated by Charles Darwin. At least in this century, I'm sure you've had ethnic cleansing throughout history. But Darwinism has given a justification for it. Look at Nazis; they were. You say, well, they were Christians. No, they weren't. They used some Christian ideas maybe as justifications, but it was more cultural than it was actual Bible verses they were quoting. But you're right with Charles Darwin. That has even Planned Parenthood is on that list too with eugenics. That's a big one. How about this one here? Totally right, Edwina. So we have an agreement with Andrew Martin.
Yeah. So the Hitler thing always gets me. Is Hitler always referred to Christianity with its weakness and flabbiness?
Flabbiness?
Yes, I think memory serves.
I wonder what the German word for that was.
Meekness and
Flabberstunst.
and it's just he hated Christianity, loved Islam, hated Christianity.
Well, you do have people who will use whatever means possible, and they're in power to any philosophy or any religion that the country or the people in the country that he's lording over to try to manipulate the people that are there. So you will have quotes that are done, from whatever point of view.
Wow.
It is.
Okay, Venus is on it.
Yes, Hitler preferred Islam over Christianity.
Yep, it said Hitler's perspective was it was their misfortune to have Christianity. It would have been much better if they would have had. Know that. Oh yeah, it would have been much better if they would have had Islam or the religion of Japan, because Islam, if it would have been, he believed that if Hitler would have had Islam as a foundation of Christianity, they would have been superior because it was a superior race, and Islam was a superior religion to Christianity.
And there's also the militarism that goes with it too. Now, you did have a lot of that in the German mindset at the time. A lot of militarism was a part of their culture, and if you mix that with Islam, I would imagine that would have been, they would have gone further.
Man, he knows the quotes.
Okay, what does he have here? Hitler even wished that Charles Martel, Charles the Hammer, had lost the Battle of Poitiers, thereby allowing Muslims to take over Europe.
Yep.
All right, Venus, I'm going to be in November. I'm going to be releasing a novel called The Healing Stone, and it's about an orphan in Spain, medieval Spain. And he is involved in the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa in 1212. This is during the Reconquista of Spain. He comes down, and there is a lot of talk about Islam in Iberia and what happens there, the influence and so forth. If it's put in the context of a novel, you may enjoy this. I may want to ask to say, hey, when it comes out, see if you can do a review on it. I'd appreciate that. Who else do we hear? This is lively. This is great. This is the kind of stuff I was looking for. We kind of diverged a little bit from the AI thing, but that's cool. This is good discussion. So, Raiders of the Lost Ark got it right. Nazis, at least, or the ones higher up, were occultists. It was really weird.
It got weird. It got weird. Some of the stuff that they were doing science-wise, or they're definitely trying to mix science and cult. If you look at the history, and it got really weird.
I had just a couple of months ago, I finished reading finally The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, and that's an interesting book. Be interesting to do a review on that. Since I do historical science fiction, we can maybe get a little bit into the historical side, where you do see that it focuses on the rise. It's not just so much the rise and fall of the Third Reich; it's the rise and fall of Hitler. And talks about his beginnings, how just obscure beginnings and going on, and how he was able to leverage a lot of the angst and anger about the Treaty of Versailles and what happened at the end of World War I, and the Germans just feeling like they got the short end of the stick and everything, and build up. And it's something we should all be aware of in terms of what happens, what brings leaders like this to power, how we need to keep our eyes open for it.
So you have a direct question here.
And what is that? Are you on Amazon? I was, but I just took down all my work because I'm refreshing the brand, and I'm going to be releasing. The plan is releasing 4 short stories in the next 4 months, and then November release a novel, and then after that, that's the first one of a series. It's the Shadows of Time series. So this is a science fiction time traveling series, but doesn't have necessarily a whole lot of time traveling involved. It deals with the results and the repercussions of time travel. And you have people going through time. So the first novel is about recruiting a boy in medieval Spain, and then his what happens with him. The second novel, the third novel is a girl in Africa in the kingdom of Mali, and then you go to the fall of the Aztec Empire, and it continues going through time, focusing on these individuals, recruiting them, almost sort of like a Avengers type of thing, where you have these pictures of these different people that are recruited, and there's different powers and stuff like that are involved. So not too much of a spoiler to get into. I'm very excited about it. We'll see what happens with it. Muslims claim that Spain was tolerant under Islam, but that is a total myth. There was a good book using primary sources like Ben Hazm, is that how you pronounce it? The Myth of the Andalusian Paradise that debunks it. Okay, so in the book, that's a very good point, because you have a lot of people say, oh, it's the peace and stuff like that. And they preserved a lot of the philosophers, the Greek philosophers, Aristotle, and the history of the Greco philosophy was because of Islam in Andalusia, and it was because of them. Guys,
No.
what about the Byzantine Empire? They even spoke Greek. You're telling me that none of that came through there? So there were some translators. By the way, the translators that were there in Iberia, in Muslim Spain, were Jewish mostly.
It was the Jews.
The Jews did.
The Jews did it.
So yeah, it had a lot to do with it. So I do delve into that in the story, and Francisco, who's the main character, comes by, and you do see a part where he is held by a captive by a Muslim prince, and says, "Look at all these beautiful." He praises the beauty of Andalusia, and there was Cordoba and Granada and a lot of places down there. They were beautiful, but you had it also built on the backs of slaves. You had the jizya that had to be paid. You had persecution, second-class citizens if you weren't Muslim, and so forth. So yeah, that was all in there. Now I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name correctly. I've read about him, seen him a lot before. Okay, so Jewish philosopher, Mr. M, I'll just call him that, because I know I'm going to get the pronunciation right. A Jewish philosopher even spoke on how horribly the Muslims treated him under Islamic rule in Spain. Yeah, there's a secondary character in the novel too. Let's just say his birth name is Moses. Oh gosh, help me out.
It's your book.
I know it's my book. I'm drawing.
Why are you looking at me?
Because
I didn't write it.
You may have read it. Anyway, so the second character that helps Francisco out, I can't remember his name. He is Jewish, and he had to escape Badajoz because of persecution by the Muslims. And these are historic facts that happened there. He escapes to Toledo after his parents are killed. So yeah, anything else in here before we move on to ask?
Actually, going back to the
AI question. Yeah, this is a great.
So the movie itself. Some of the blaring issues I would say with this movie was this is something that was constant irritation and made it very hard to get through, definitely in the beginning. Although, again, a lot of it was redeeming to it, because it would have been really cool if they would fix this one issue, is they have no tactical skills at all.
Oh, yeah.
The military procedure, so you send out one ship to this planet to go take this AI, super powerful AI terrorist, and bring him back alive. And the concept is, guys, no, you wouldn't send one ship to this. They have no intel on the entire area. He had intel on them. This was a botched from the beginning. Anyone with any sort of concept of military tactics would have told you this is stupid from day one.
So I agree with you. I think I downgraded a bit because of that. This is an example. Sometimes you have a character in a movie or in a story where you think, why are you so dumb? Why are you doing this? This is stupid. And maybe it's just for the point of leading the plot into a certain direction that you want to. You make your main character go into the dark room alone when he or she could have brought anybody else with him and brought a gun or something, and just walking in. You're going to get what's coming to you. And I guess in the same situation with this, right? That they were just being stupid.
It was not just a one person, wasn't it? The entire organization, humanity itself, was so incredibly stupid in this move that if the AI would have wiped them out, I would just look and say, hey, you guys kind of opened yourself up to this. This was, you guys deserved it.
Yeah.
You guys deserved it because they have planet wiping bombs, right? Or at least not necessarily destroying, but atmosphere and like environment destroying bombs. Enough on one of these ships to be a valid threat to humanity just by itself. And it's very clear as the ship's being launched that they have hundreds of these things.
Right.
Okay, fine. You want to take the terrorists, you want to get the memory core to figure out why he turned bad. Fine. Okay. You have one strike team that goes in there. But the rest of your armada is sitting there watching. It goes south for the strike team. You light the planet up.
I'm laughing because it's like you're right in what you're saying.
It's very annoying.
But you gave it an 8.
I liked everything else. Everything else was great.
Okay,
perfect execution with a female protagonist, which again I haven't seen forever.
I think they did a good job. And
by
the
way, this wasn't a rewrite of some male protagonist that they just gender swapped. This was a female.
As far as we know, I don't know if this is taken out of a book, and the book may have been a male character, but I think it was authentic. And I think that you really didn't. A female character here worked better because of some of the psychological issues that she was dealing with.
Absolutely, it's great.
I thought that was good, whether she was cast well or not. So, we still do have the spoilers. I'm glad we have that up there. Okay. So thank you, Andrew, for putting this up. And now I'm going to try to get the correct pronunciation. Maimonides is how you would pronounce his name if I'm reading it correctly. Maimonides.
Thanks to Wikipedia.
And there's a couple of you guys are all scholars in there, I'm telling you, because you're able to come up with it right away. Rip spaceship.
Yeah, light it up.
So, but I enjoyed it. It was a good. I thought, I enjoy sci-fi. I thought this is a good sci-fi film. Now you do have a lot of blood. Okay, it's not necessarily for kids, right?
No.
You do have languages in there. Okay, but other than that, I mean, there's a little bit of gore, but
robot gore. Lots of robot gore.
Yeah, lots of robot gore. Okay.
It's been a long time since I've seen a decent sci-fi like this.
Okay, so I'm going to put this out specifically as a question since we're getting a lot of good interaction from you guys in the chat. Each one of you, if you could answer, I'm going to present to you a way to connect directly to the internet or to an AI computer that is going to be very helpful for you. It's going to give you tremendous boost in your work, whatever kind of work environment you're in. It's going to be able to be an assistant, going to give you this expanded knowledge, basically. Even if you have some kind of robotic device, be able to have that faster response for things. It will make you more employable. It will get you more money. It might even get you a date. If you're single, I have no idea. Or if you're married, help you with your spouse. I have no idea.
I'm waiting for you to say, but wait, there's more.
But wait, there's today for you, 1995. But okay, so I'm going to give this to you, but you have to connect through this in order to do it. It makes sense. The only way that you can do it is being connected directly to it. And you have to open your mind, and your mind is going to be open to the AI as well.
And it's going to have control over you.
Not necessarily.
There's multiple parts that they.
I do. I know they do in the movie. Okay.
That's scary.
Okay. I don't want you to say that yet. Will you do it? Is my question. So I'm looking for answers here. Oh, we got this guy again here. If you really don't have, we got some guy who's spamming in the chat saying Islam is the truth. If you don't really have a good argument, I'll listen to good arguments. But if you're just going to come on and the only thing you can do is just a flat out spam, you don't have a good argument. It's like yelling in the corner. You're being a child. Stop. Doesn't serve anybody. Doesn't serve your cause. It just makes it look more idiotic.
Yep. Put you in timeout to begin with. Now you're actually banned.
Okay. All right. So I want to look at some of. Yay. I don't think it was for just what happened, but he says, Venus says, I cannot lie. Learning more from you two than I ever have learned whilst I was in high school. What? Okay, cool. That's a sad. I can't tell you what a sad reflection that is on high school.
It's not so much a compliment to us as a sad reflection on high school.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad to have you, man. It's cool. All right, so Andrew Martin said, I've read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy and several walls of books. Cool. Dude, when I come out with these, I would like to get, I'm looking for early readers to put reviews on, and honest reviews. If you read either the short stories or the novel and you think it totally sucks, I would ask you to please not put your comment on there because it would really tank the scene. But if you do, you do. And, hopefully I can improve from whatever comments you have on it. But I would love to get some reviews from you guys. Okay, Bam, please. Yes, we did. Okay. Yeah, Andrew is he's asked if he could be a mod. Stop spamming. Really need mods on your channel.
Haven't had much of an issue on this channel up to this point.
Not until today. All right, so I'm going to put this question out to you guys again, please, if you guys can answer. And if not, we'll move on because I don't want to beg. If I were to present that to you today, it would come in the mail, FedEx, overnight delivery. I'm going to give you this, and I'm also going to give you maybe an AI robot or a computer that will enhance your life. You will be a better person for this connection. The question is, will you do it? Yes or no? Dun, dun, dun. Okay. I didn't scroll down. That's the problem. All right. So what we got? There's always a trade-off. We can see that with smartphones, much less with AI. I don't think we know the extent of what effects it will have. That is a very, very good point. And you're right. And we already see the effects of smartphones and how we're basically glued to these devices.
Oh, yeah.
Just a quick comment before I read in the other comments that you have here. I find myself, if I'm in a line, maybe at the grocery store or something like this, and I'm waiting, my first inclination is to pull this out, maybe check to see if I got any messages or check email or whatever, or maybe check the weather. In so doing, I'm not engaging with the people around me. Now, granted, before cell phones, you didn't necessarily talk to people in a grocery line or stuff like that. But you're also not aware of the environment. You're focused on this and not aware of what's happening around you. You're not engaged in this. You're engaged in this. This becomes more of a reality to you. So, and the interface that we have with this is so simple. If we crank this up several notches where you're in this VR type of environment where you have all this data that's around you, I can't imagine how people would disconnect. It'd be so difficult to disconnect from that.
No, there's thousands of issues that brings up. I mean, seriously, if you had the ability, not only that, if you just had the ability to spam someone, be able to targetively spam someone with a bunch of pop-ups.
Yeah.
And it just pops up in their vision, basically like in the show, you're just popping up left and right. They'd be perfect to rob from. And they'd be perfect if they're so distracted by everything that's happening on their face, trying to handle that. I mean, if you're a pickpocket, you do that. And
well, there's the pickpocket of within
pick.
the virtual reality itself. I mean, we already know that Facebook and other large media groups are very much involved in psychological manipulation. And in so doing, they're basically reaching into your pocket, your past, or your psyche, getting things done. So we got some other responses here I want to hit real quick. Isgul says, I can't stand the thought that human-made things has that intimate connection to me. That is a good question. So I'm going to bring up a verse, and that is it's the in Judaism it's called the Shema, and this is spoken in, as far as I know, it's in synagogue. It's the great command from God. And when someone approached Jesus, said, "What are the greatest commandments?" Jesus said, two: to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. So when we are commanded to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, what does it mean to love God with your mind? I'm going to check your responses for this whole question of connecting to AI, but then we'll come back to this question of loving God with your mind. What does that actually mean? So I agree with you, but the temptation is going to be so strong.
Oh yeah,
Davos, to make this connection, because it's going to give you an advantage. If you go into the workforce 20, 30, 40 years from now, and people have these connections, it's going to be on their resume. They're going to be more likely going to be accepted by an employer. Let's say that you're an engineer and you're tapped in somehow, and your responses are going to be like this. Your designs are going to be so much better. Your troubleshooting techniques are going to be so much better than me fumbling around and trying to get the data sheet on something where he's already had the access to the data sheet immediately. So you're going to find yourself, and your children are going to find themselves in the position where they're not going to be able to compete unless they are a part of the system. They are connected integrally like this. I'm not saying this is necessarily going to happen, but it has a potential for going this way. Wow, where are we? The internet connection would be better along with virus protection. I guess maybe. New meetings, I've got a virus.
Yeah, virus.
That's
you
right.
Don't have to worry about the sniffles only.
Totally. I watched a person on the phone the other day, and they were so unaware of their surroundings. Yes.
Situational awareness.
Yes. I personally feel that if we become too dependent on AI, we would essentially decrease our natural abilities and instinct. Yeah. Okay. So there is a story of Esau and Jacob, and Esau gives over his birthright. He's hungry. He's tired. He's been out hunting all day. And he comes into the tent and said, and he smelled his brother, who was like a stay-at-home. He was a mommy boy, Jacob, and he's been cooking. And he smells that Esau comes in. He smells what Jacob's been cooking. He says, "Man, give me this stew." And Jacob says, "No." He says, "Give me this stew. I'm hungry, man. I've been out." He says, "Give me your birthright. In other words, give me your inheritance." And Esau says, "Whatever, dude, give me the food." And he does this just on the whim, just grabs it, right? How quick are we going to hand over our birthright, our minds, our basically our souls, our bodies, in order for a quick convenience? You know what? We already do that with privacy. We give over our privacy for a quick app. We don't even have the time. I'm guilty of this. Don't read this. It's like I was talking to somebody else the other day. He's a software engineer. I said, "Man, I don't want to sign over those rights." He says, "Why not? You already do anyway." And so there's already this mentality that we've done it. They already own us. They already own all our information. So what's the big deal? We are getting free apps because we're giving them information about ourselves. So we sell our birthright already. Andrew said the EcoPunk RPG from the 90s speculated about overload advertising being used to distract people for their cyber. This is not new stuff, man. That's why that's actually a good reason for speculative fiction, science fiction, is because it asks these questions before we actually get there. And these are good moral questions sometimes. Look at some of the tech that they had in the early 1960s Star Trek, the original series. Tricorders. They had the communicators. The flip phones came out, right?
Yep. Based off of Star Trek.
Yeah, that is hilarious. So we need to wrestle these questions ethically before they become part of our lives. We need to ask this. It's the 90s, yeah. Deuteronomy 6:4, the Shema. Is this the atheist?
This is the atheist. Is that the correct reference?
I don't know if it is or not, but I think it probably is. Definitely would be either Deuteronomy or Leviticus, probably, because those are the two, main bodies of the Levitical law.
I double check, but it sounds right.
Thank you. Cool. Isgul said strong temptation for sure. Thomas Hall said social media alters our views on reality. I almost read that as fertility. Alters our views on reality. When small minorities create a lot of content, it gives the appearance that it's how the world should. Yes, and that's happened with Twitter, hasn't it? They pretty much the vocal minority has taken over Twitter space, and you have people in positions of power that look at that and say, as a quick marketing check, to look at Twitter and say, well, that must be what people say, because that's the majority of all the conversations on Twitter. So therefore there are multiple genders. Go figure. Never knew that. The reverse is true on employment too. If you can get fired much easier for things outside work.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. I don't know how many times I've heard stories of someone being fired because of what they posted on Facebook or Twitter or something like that, and then their employer heard about it and it's like, oh nope, you're fired.
Yeah.
It's like, but that was my personal life.
Yeah, that was never really an issue. I mean, you might have let's say the 80s or so, or 90s even. Maybe you're out drinking, maybe you made a fool of yourself. If you're in a position of authority within that business, they may say, listen, you ruined your reputation. You damaged it. You become a laughing stock. You can no longer hold the position that you do because you basically ruined I could see that because people no longer have respect for you. But if HR, which is maybe more than likely woke, goes and reads what you had on Facebook, then you get fired. You hear about that. That ends up silencing people.
Well, that and they started doing that even before you were hired. I've heard of some companies going online and looking you up and seeing what you posted and basically seeing if you'd be a good fit or not based upon your personal life.
At this point, and this is where the real damage comes, because you begin to silence yourself because I can't put that on there. I don't want to possibly lose my job. I don't want to possibly even the stuff in truth. I'm not talking about going out there and being a real jerk and flaming people and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about just speaking the truth. And you get all this flack. It's like, I'm not going to say anything. No, I'm at the point where I say, listen, I'm going to come straight out and say, I'm a sexist. I'm a misogynist. I'm a racist. I'm a bigot. I'm all these things. I'm not really, but I will say this. And then somebody can say, well, you said such and such, you're a bigot. Say, have your opinion. I don't care. I will speak the truth as I see it. So go on. And we need to have people with more courage out there, I believe, just to be able to stand up for what you believe in than just taking the safe ground. Okay. All right. I'll be quiet. Go on. Neuromancer from the 80s has mentioned advertising and cyberlink. Neuromancer was a pretty, that was a cutting edge. I wouldn't say cutting edge, but it really defined a lot of the genre there. Venus, I have even heard about some of the advertisements and songs having subliminal messages that subconsciously affect our brains. Yeah, that was a big thing. I think back in the 80s, I heard about, things being put backwards and stuff like that, and subliminal messages. And I think there is some truth to that. But at the same time, I think that the messages that we're saying now, they're saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. Not
necessarily subliminal anymore. That maybe there was a day when a lot more of it was subliminal, but right now it's just like right in your face. Venus is right. Okay, good. Venus is right. The Shema is found in Deuteronomy 6:4. Okay, we've got. God
Oh.
bless you.
Oh,
We got
boy.
an atheist theologian here. Look, is that bad?
I'm not sure.
As long as the atheist becomes a Christian and not the Christian becoming the atheist, we're cool with it. What's he say? I'm proud of that.
I'm proud of it.
There we go. So just going through this social credit score. Yes. Yep. Yeah, I have a concern that would, especially if you have what is it, central bank currency, digital currency, that would be another big part of it too. We got to fight against a central bank digital currency altogether. Are you okay?
Well, even now, yeah, I'm fine. Even now, I mean, how much of a hindrance would it be if the government has enough control over the banks and stuff just to say, hey, we're just going to lock every part of this down? I mean, how much of your currency is digital right now?
True.
I mean, other than the cash you have on hand, and a lot of people don't have a lot of cash on hand.
Just use a card all the time. It's so convenient to use a card. You don't have to fiddle with change. You don't have to make sure it's all there. Yeah.
And if they decide, okay, if someone today, and you can see how weak you are to this, if someone, or how vulnerable you are, if someone today decided, okay, I'm going to lock all your accounts, you cannot use any of your bank accounts. Say your bank decided, I'm just not going to do business with you, I'm closing all your accounts immediately. You're up a creek without a paddle.
Yeah. So the whole idea of currency here too, this is all interesting. If you think about it, I'm sure that most of you already thought about this, is even currency itself. If you looked at the $20 bill, I don't know if it's still the same or not, but this it's not actually $20. It is a banknote to reclaim $20 worth of metal value, gold or silver. Of course, we got off the gold standard, and I think it's 72 or whatever, actually, silver standard. We got out that standard, so we're no longer pegged to actual currency. But that's what it was. It was a certificate, because it's like reclaiming. I'm going to reclaim my jacket that I've left. Here's a claim ticket. That's what a $20 bill is, a claim ticket for $20. And the actual, before then, the currency itself was the value of the coin, right? The material value. We got away from that. The paper really doesn't have any value. We're getting away from the paper itself, and now it's all digital, and someone can easily take control over that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Yeah. Okay, so where are we in chats? Just hit this one here. It's in China and starting in the West, the social credit system. Yes, yeah. I hope we do not get that. We followed China with the lockdowns, and it was a mess. And I hope we don't follow China with this one as well. They're not a good example. This is why it's important to use a pseudonym in this era of liars and thieves. We cannot expect sainthood within anybody. Yeah, and I'm sure we all have a checkered past. And it wouldn't take much for someone to dig up your past. Mr. Venus, not a very hospitable planet, but a good choice of names so that no one can really track you down. Yeah, that's a good point. And then we got smiley faces. And scroll down. Wow, I'm sorry, guys. I'm not keeping up with this. Digital currency. When the government implements central bank digital currency, they'll embezzle like mad. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing with the central bank digital currency is every time there's a transfer of funds, the government then says, "Oh, we have an opportunity to tax this." Whenever money moves, they can skim some off the top. When this country got founded, there was very little tax. Very little, and it just continues to accumulate over time. So whenever there's a transfer, so what happens is people can transfer money without the government knowing. And I'm not going to make a record of this, but I'm just going to be doing this under the table, so it doesn't get taxed. I can avoid any kind of taxation because I'm doing this. Once you have all currency being transferred digitally, and the government can watch that digital transfer, then any movement of money can be taxed, and at whatever percentage they want.
And now you have a lot of data, though.
What do you mean?
Because you know exactly who is spending what
Oh,
on where.
yeah.
And you can find out what they really value, and
Right.
from there connect up what is the most profitable thing to be advertising to them, and so forth. And it
Yeah.
gets
So any
really
kind, they can
bad.
track you a lot better because they know where you are, what you're purchasing. The proliferation of cameras everywhere is insane. Sherry says, "Hi, Sherry. No, I don't want to be a part of the Borg." Okay, there we have an answer.
No, I don't buy your
It
Borg.
would be very, very difficult. I've heard of the U.S. printing money. When it's digital, the U.S. politicians will have no responsibility at all. You've heard of the U.S. printing money. When it's digital, the U.S. politicians will have no responsibility at all. I don't know if they have much responsibility now. The only responsibility for us to do is to say we're going to boot him from office.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen.
And when you control the flow of information, then the voters don't have, they can't say, you know, I'm going to boot this person out. And we also have very, very shallow memory. We only remember for a couple of weeks anyway. Venus said, or Thomas Hall said, Venus has always been an era of liar and thieves, just new tools. That's true.
Yep, I think it's very clear in the Bible, humanity ever since its fall has been inherently corrupt. That's our default go-to.
New Zealand had a political party which advocated tax on money transfers.
Wasn't a popular one, I'll tell you that much.
That's my campaign speech. I'm going to tax you more. They claimed it would reduce taxes to zero in exchange. I'm not sure how that would work.
Where is the logic in that?
Venus said, in nearby school of mine, a teacher got fired just because she raised awareness on our terrorism carried out by Muslims. To make matters worse, the school is a secular one, but they still fired her. Yeah, I don't know what it is with. I think with after 9/11, it's like all Muslims are bad, and then there was that only lasted for a short time, and then there was immediate knee-jerk reaction in the other direction, which said they can do no wrong, basically. And there is a big, I think, an attitude out of Hollywood and some mainstream media too to say that they're basically a protected group.
Oh no, definitely with the left right now, they are a very protective group. The LGBTQ and them seem to be hand in hand, which is really weird.
Doesn't that have to do with the rule that in Islam you can lie as long as you are promoting the faith?
You have to. It's actually according to Sharia law, you have to lie if you are required to do the means. So if you're required to promote Islam, then you're required to lie about Islam in order to make it fit within the situation you want.
Okay.
Just a little bit of takia there.
Okay. So if I'm going to make Islam more popular in the West by saying we're pro-LGBTQIA, it's okay to lie about it. And then once we have Sharia enacted, then
then you can
implement
that. Although, again, I mean, if someone were to argue hypothetically that Muhammad was gay and had homosexual tendencies and acted upon homosexual desires, according to the Hadith, they might have a really good grounding for that.
Okay. Venus said a lot of Western schools, even the secular ones, receive lots of funding from the Gulf Arab nations. This explains schools' appeasement of policies toward Muslim. I think I had seen this in I'm not going to say which university this is, but in this particular one, you know which one I'm talking about probably. They get a lot of funding. They get a lot of students from, like you said, the Arab states to come over. And so there is almost, I would say there's almost an Arab culture not that necessarily the Arab culture is bad, but they're talking about Islamic culture that's there with, you can't say that. There's certain things that you can't, almost like blasphemy laws. There's certain things that you can't do, you can't say with that. And when that starts coming in, boy, you see some cultural changes that are happening as well in that area. skipping down a little bit. Thomas Hall said Muslim groups like CARE were brilliant in spreading victimhood status of Muslims.
Sorry, actually, could we go back to that last statement here, talking about the Muslims in basically Muslims helping fund schools. We actually have that coming up as one of our topics in a conference that's coming up pretty soon.
Yes.
In Ohio.
Okay.
We're going to have our Seek and Share Truth. That is July 12th.
It's coming up real quick.
Through the 14th, I think it is.
And you did another one last year, correct?
Yep. So this is the second one in that area that we'll be doing. We have one of our speakers who will be coming in, and he will be addressing that as his topic.
Are you able to say any of the speakers yet at this point?
David Wood, Anthony Rogers, trying to pull them off the top of my head, Thaddeus, me, So Elohim, Mr. Dakdok.
Okay.
In fact, he will be
Usama.
Usama.
Right?
Yes, Usama.
I'll tell you what, he's very dynamic.
And he's the one who's going to be covering this topic.
Is he?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic.
He's very, very in-depth.
I tell you, in last year, it was a bit of an intimate group that was all here. So if you're familiar with these speakers, and if you're able to make it to this conference, I think it'd be very much worth, if you're interested in it, it might be worth your while. Because not only the topics, but being able to engage with these speakers as well.
No, Robert Spencer is not one of the speakers as of yet. And I promise not to lock the door on him. Yeah, that's something that just happened to him as most recent. Yes.
Okay.
He went to a college campus to speak, flew out there, paid for security, got in, got right to the door, and they locked it on him. And then they told everyone the event went off as scheduled.
Oh, ouch. I want to put up another, and I'm looking forward to the conference. I'm going to be there. It's going to be, I think it's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to it. Venus mentioned, however, in general, Britain has been hell-bent on appeasement. It has been a long tradition since World War II. And this is something that really gets me too. You look back at the time of the Crusades and stuff like that. I'm not justifying any kind of the bad actions that happened with the Crusades, but you could see where there was a time in Western Europe, and even Eastern Europe too, especially Eastern Europe in some cases, where there was a real fight against Islam to say, no, we're going to stand up, and not just on a religious standpoint, but cultural too, saying no to this. And that has, I look at what's happening in the UK now, and my heart just breaks. I'm thinking, what are you guys doing? You have lost. Talking about losing your birthright. You at one time stood up for Christ, and now you're rolling over easily. And it's not. Look at where this is heading. It's not a pretty picture.
No.
Okay, so I'm going to jump down to here. Lloyd Day Young, please forgive me if I mispronounce, covered this topic too. He has multiple videos discussing Arab states using their funding to suppress criticism of Islam in Western educational institutions. And there's a lot of funding from oil to be able to support this. And then, Venus said, there was even an attempt on Robert Spencer's life when he visited Iceland. A leftist guy poisoned his food. Are you aware of that one?
No, I wasn't aware of that. I'm not surprised.
So we do know of others who have had this happen to them. There was this woman. Should we mention her? Okay, so Hatun Tash, who was an evangelist, very outspoken, goes to Speaker's Corner in London. She was attacked at least a couple of times. One was a knife attack that had happened. I believe there's still video on YouTube concerning that. So it's pretty bad when your arguments for your side devolve into either spamming like we had today or flat out attacks. You don't have an argument at all when it comes down to that point, or it just gets down to violence. So we have deviated quite a bit from the movie Atlas, and talking about AI. It's been a great discussion, and I think this is good overall with what we're having. I appreciate the input that you guys have had. Looking forward to next week. We are going to be looking at the movie Spectral, which is another Netflix movie coming out. And this is going to be building up to the release of the first short story I have, which is going to be called A Taste of Earth. We're going to be showing more in terms of sneak peeks to it, the characters that are involved in the story, do a release on the cover art for that. Everything is already done for this. And anticipating this and looking at each of these movies, look at some of these themes and say, how are these related to it? And having your discussion for this is crucial. This is fantastic to be able to go back and forth and chat. That's why we do this live. It's rough. It's not polished. We don't do that.
Distracted on multiple different topics.
That's right.
We go down rabbit holes.
Thursdays or Fridays, I release another short video that is a more polished version of this. We take out clips from these live streams and go from there. But the advantage of the live stream is having your interaction. And I tell you, it's fantastic. It's really good. Look forward to more of that in the future. So until then, we will see you next week on the next one.